Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another anime Anticlimax with SeptumSin versus the world. We've got all of our usuals here. Roger had to take a break. I guess there were too many lions for him to swallow this week. But we do have Kroll with us, Jake, Brittany, and Dave. And Brittany and Kroll are going to help walk us through our selection this time, which is Voltron, Defender of the Universe. We watched the first 26 to 30 episodes, depending on the person. And, this is going to be fun. So I will hand this over to you all. We'll have fun.
Okay, we are doing a wonderfully classic series from the 1980s here. We are doing the dubbing only of this series. We're doing Voltron, the legendary Defender, or should be Defender of the Universe, excuse me. Wrong one that I was looking at. But yeah, we are doing this series. It was suggested by Ron this week, or this time. Ron, tell us about the series a little bit.
Well, Voltron is a show from 1984. Originally, Go Lions in Japan, and basically it's these 5 lions of 5 different colors that go together and create Voltron, a giant robot that creates a sword out of energy and fights other monsters per se. And it also has each lion has their own damage, like fire breath, missiles, things like that. So, which they can utilize as the individual lions and as Voltron. So he has a lot of attacks, and he uses all these attacks to they defend. At first, they're basically defending one planet. Because that's where the Voltron was, and they're like, oh, well, Voltron's needed for that planet, and they're like, well, we need to save everybody. So they finally venture off and actually go to a few other planets and save the day there as well. And throughout the whole series, there's an enemy that's the king is constantly trying to destroy the planet, and his son is trying to just take over the planet and rule it because he wants to marry the princess because he has a hots for her. There's no other woman his father tried to marry him off. He was like, I can't do it. I just love her. Kind of sweet, but he's just kind of just a pig and she doesn't want nothing to do with him. You can understand why, but yeah.
Yeah, and is this your first time watching the series?
Oh no, I watched it live back in 1984. So, absolutely loved it. I was 11. Loved it. Transformers and this, and watch these every day. Every I think it was on 3 o'clock maybe. I don't really remember. Probably after school. So come home after school and get to watch this and enjoy it. It was fun, and it's a nice trip back to memory lane. We'll talk a little bit about voice acting. The voice acting is a little bit different than I remember. I don't remember it being so bad on at least one of the characters. We all know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, we'll be going into definitely be touching voice acting on this because it's a very important topic to talk
The
about.
best voice acting isn't that bad, I don't think, but his is just really bad.
All right, so let's get some other people's opinions. Let's go down the list. I'm going to go from right to left here. So I'm going to start with Dave. Dave, is this your first time seeing Voltron?
In its entirety, yes. But I've watched 1 or 2 episodes of this when it was on Saturday morning cartoons or whatnot. Because I swear, they used to interchange this with Transformers and He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and She-Ra, and all that jazz. So I'm glad that I finally was able to sit down and just watch like it episodically. But I did have trouble paying attention to the episodes, and it may be due to the fact that um, I didn't remember like the intro to the Voltron robot itself being so extensively long. Um, of course, then again, so was like Power Rangers, with their whole intro to their robot that they eventually became part of. So it's like this series I know is one of the precursors to Transformers. So it's basically the formula that was it, and I know that there was GoBots as well. So, but I thought that the robot was interesting. I mean, the fact that it roared every time it went to the hands and the feet. I thought that was interesting. Uh, but yeah, I'm glad that I finally saw at least the origins story to the Voltron series and some of the characters that were involved in it. I did like the fact that it kind of had like a gladiator type setting, like with the arena and stuff, and whatnot. Kind of reminds me of like Spartacus Blood and Sand a little bit, except with robots. So yeah,
And no naked people.
yeah, they kept it kid friendly. So
At least that part.
for the kids.
And it depends on what you watched. All right. So we'll go over to Kotobukijake. Jacob, is this your first time watching this series?
This is kind of an interesting one for me. This was actually, if I'm not much mistaken, Dave, I believe this was more contemporary to Transformers than precursor. And I grew up with Transformers. I grew up with Ninja Turtles, with Thundercats. Those were the ones I definitely remembered. Definitely remembered. And then there were some like He-Man that I remembered. Yeah, I saw some of that, but I couldn't remember how much. Voltron was in that category, or maybe even more the category of like Silverhawks. Like I could swear I'd seen some, but I really wasn't sure. I hadn't seen it, definitely hadn't seen it since the 80s. So I honestly went into this thinking that I may not have seen it, but there is no question that certain sequences, Dave, you mentioned the transformation sequence. That's definitely one that once I saw it, I was like, yeah, I remember this. But also like the sequence of like going and getting the lions in the first place, like they're going to their battle stations, as and one thing I particularly remember is when they're going through the little shuttles, and the surroundings change to reflect the particular lions. Some reason that part really stuck with me. So I saw that and I was like, yeah, I've seen this before, but how much of it I'd seen, I couldn't tell you. And this go around, again, I really think we bit off too much. This is such a formulaic and repetitive series that we could have easily done half this and done probably the same discussion that we're going to have. So I don't know. But I will say that
I wanted more.
What's that?
I said I wanted more.
You want it more, but you also have much more time to watch shows.
I do, but
I
I still
don't.
want. I think I might buy it because I want to watch
Yeah.
the whole series.
And you can't, or I feel you can't really marathon a show like this very well. You got to
I
do it
did.
in small bits. I think as a child, I probably would have been fine doing that, but because it has a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of stuff to like in this, and as much as I was ragging on the vocal acting, some of the main roles are pretty well done. But there is that one main character that everyone hated. And again, the background voice acting was atrocious. I can't even think of a show that I've seen where the background vocal acting was so horrid. And it's like they clearly didn't want to bother with it. They were just like, okay,
and we're gonna get we're gonna have to do a whole section on just the voice acting.
yeah,
And as we get into it, I don't want to drag into it too much right now.
yeah.
So let's. Anything else you wanted to say about it?
Well, I was going to say as well. I remembered Sven having a much bigger role, and I was actually kind of disappointed that he didn't, because that was bad voice acting in a good way. But
Yeah, I like Zen.
there was a lot of stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff here that was cool. There's a lot of stuff I had serious issues with. And when we get into it, we'll talk about it. But it was, if nothing else, it was an instructive trip down memory lane of the whole, sometimes when you go back to things from your childhood, are you going to regret what you find? And this one is kind of near, it comes close.
All right, Brandon, was this your first time watching this series?
No, I mean, I know I watched some of this when I was a kid. I like the toys, and also, yes. Hello, Mike McNally. Great to have you on with us. Have you seen, actually, do you remember Voltron? For any of our viewers out there. But in any case, yeah, I remember watching this as a kid and really wanting the toys, which is what it was used to do. Is like any set. I mean, I'm sorry, anybody who grew up in the 80s with the cartoons during that time, everything was geared to sell toys.
Merchandising.
I mean, this, Jed Joe, Transformers, which Transformers being another anime they adapted. Robotech. Gosh, actually, Robotech is another one that's kind of similar, but
Robotech was more adapted. Transformers was made for the U.S.
Yeah,
and of course, I don't remember a lot of it growing up. I remember the lions. I don't remember the vehicles. And then, of course, I ran across like all of the Voltron tins, which I'm told are now pretty out of print. But I remember seeing all the tins and the vehicle ones for like $10 a set, and I was like, "Oh, I can just snatch this up because this is an important series." And then I decided I'm going to watch it all because it's all used, and I like to try and watch my used stuff to try and see to make sure it works. And it was hard watch then. I mean, I instead of doing just 30 episodes, I did the entire series in as close a run as I could, which would be, let's see, Beast, Go Lion, and Die Rugger, I believe, are the two series that they adapted. And I have to say, this time around, it was just as hard to watch. I think if I spread them out like maybe an episode a week or something, it might have been fine. But as they kind of ran into one another, it just kind of one episode ran into the other, and it just started fading into the background as white noise as I was trying to move through it. But there were some interesting things, especially the space mice. I always loved the space mice.
See, that's the thing I don't get. They were on a planet. Why were they space mice? They should have just been mice.
Because they're space mice.
But they were on a
Yeah.
planet, so therefore they were just mice. They
You
weren't
don't know
on
that's where they
space.
were from. They could have been from space and then decided to
Yeah.
colonize this
But
planet.
how would
All
he
right.
know? Because he just found them on the planet and called them space mice.
All right,
Yeah.
I'm going to go put my 2 cents in here. This is not the first time I've seen this series. I watched this series when it came out as a weekly or weekday release. It was one of the things in the 80s. You didn't have just Saturday morning cartoons. You had weekday morning cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yep.
had them in the morning,
In the
you had them in the
afternoon.
afternoon, and Voltron was one of those. Voltron aired alongside of He-Man. Sort of was the first attempt at a He-Man killer, and aired alongside of GoBots and Muppet Babies at the same time. Both got released at the same time.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Uh,
about Muppet Babies.
Yeah, and ironically, I believe Muppet Babies was also done through Toei Animation, which is where the animation comes from. As we covered, was formerly known as Beast King Go Lion of the series. In this I watched through the Go Lion episodes, and basically because I'd never really watched them. And this is very much, even though the basis of Power Rangers was before this series, in a way, in America, it's the predecessor for Power Rangers. So it's kind of an interesting thing there. You didn't really see a giant robot transform and combine here in the US before. It was the new thing. And yes, it was there to sell toys. Everything's there to sell toys. Even today, we sell toys through cartoons. If you don't think a cartoon is out to sell a toy, then you're living yourself a lie.
True. But I think the 80s was really the birth.
The 80s was really hard on it, but
because they got rid of a lot of the regulations that they used to have on them around the early 80s. Because there used to be some pretty stiff regulations that almost every cartoon had to be fully educational or something like that. And then they kind of lowered those as time. That's one of the reasons why you still had to have your lessons.
You gotta love the Voltron robot was a die-cast metal toy. You could hurt somebody if you formed Voltron.
Oh, they couldn't afford it, but
that sucker had weight.
Hell yeah. The 80s, we didn't care about fucking safety.
And we're gonna get into it here. I mean, a couple things I do want to go over. The basis of Voltron. They pulled this series when they produced this series, and it was essentially World Vision, I believe. World Events Production, excuse me. World Events Production is the company that released Voltron initially. It was properly formed just to make the series, but it wasn't intended to be this series. They had 2 different series going up at the same time that they could pick from, anime-wise. And they saw both of them had lions. And they said they wanted the one with the lions.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they said. We want the one with the lions. So they got Go Lion. They did not expect that they were getting this.
Yeah, it was a mistake, a happy mistake in my opinion.
Even worse, they didn't have a translator. So what we got script-wise was based off of what they heard from the original soundtrack of Go Lion, and then just try to Americanize it as best as they could. It has been redone, of course, twice. Initially for a Nickelodeon series, which flopped, and then, of course, later in the prominent Netflix series that happened about 5-6 years ago. That is out there, which is Legendary Defenders, which they kind of retouched upon Go Lion to bring that back into Voltron. But you have the same cast of characters, you have the same build-up, and pretty much, I mean, it is a far superior version of this series as it was. But there are still issues with the newer series. Now, have any of you also watched the newer series? I question you that.
I have not. I have not seen it at all.
I've been meaning to for the Netflix one, but I haven't. I just haven't.
All right. Let's go through characters, and I guess we'll hit voices while we're at it. So we'll go through the main characters, starting with the Red Lion or Red Leader himself, even though he's in the Black Lion, and they never explain why.
Right.
Keith.
Because he forms the head.
He forms the head, but he's also
Yeah.
the Red Lion is not the red suit, and
Yeah.
Netflix
and
at least fixed that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they
Lance is
goofed
in the
up.
blue suit, right?
Yeah, well, you have Keith, Lance, Hunk,
Yeah. Pidge.
Sven, Pidge, and then of course Alora later.
Mhm.
Oh, I like Sven. Matter of fact, if they had to replace one of them, they should have replaced Pidge.
Totally. Every time he was in trouble, I'm like, okay, kill him off now and get somebody else. It sounds horrible, but this is.
That was where the Netflix did a really good job with it, taking Pidge, and they were like, "We're going to take Pidge, and we're going to make Pidge a girl."
Yeah, I thought he was a girl until they said him, and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, why is he wearing a barrette?
I think the character could have been, if the character was, again, I need to see Go Line because I'm sure the character was probably
Go Line was played by a female, but was still male in the series.
I'm sure the character was more palatable in Go Line as far as writing wise, but I think the character had potential. It's just unfortunate that,
Now, the voice of Pidge is also the voice of Keith. It is Neil Ross.
Yeah.
And it's important to note, this series has some infamous voice acting talent. 7 voice actors for all the roles in the series, which is unheard of, and only 1 female for most of the series. So I mean, we have the.
Well, you got different voice actors. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, we have Neil Ross,
Right.
we have Michael Bell,
Yeah.
Lenny Winrib, B.J. Ward, Peter Cullen, the infamous Peter Cullen, Jack Angel, and Tress McNeil. So we have 2 huge names at least in here, but everybody's done multiple voice acting roles. Peter Cullen, of course, being the voice of the one and only Optimus Prime.
Yeah, you could not.
I didn't know that.
I mean, Peter Cullen was just excellent having him as the narrator. That's probably the most awesome voice acting decision that they had there. It was just.
And I don't think we're going to be able to ever hit this point. If it weren't for Vietnam, Peter Cullen would not have Optimus Prime voice. Because it's based off of his brother that was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That is sad, but at the same time, it's just such an iconic voice.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, good things can come out of bad situations. So.
And there's Doomsday's Crypt. If you haven't checked out his channel, you should. Yes, let's see here. Love Voltron as a kid. All the newer reboots, Voltron doesn't have that badass look and ruins it for me. That is a part to it. I mean, do y'all prefer vehicle or lightning? I mean, vehicle or lion Voltron?
Lion, totally. I do not care for the vehicles at all.
I don't know. I have never heard anybody say vehicles, honestly. It was that bad.
We had Transformers, we had GoBots. We need vehicles,
Right.
Well, but by the time vehicles aired, Transformer was aired. So
exactly. So I'm saying, and GoBots was already out. So
yeah.
Why? Why did they do that? It's like it was Lions. It was awesome.
I have heard that second series was much darker than Go Lion, and I'll admit, seeing the series back in the day, I will say even the American version of the vehicle Voltron was much darker and I could tell that there were some things that probably were happening at the end of that series that were probably much darker.
Probably, but I will say, having watched Go Lion now, it's pretty dark. We already hit, or Ron already said, there's Lotor going after Laura for marriage, and Go Lion, it's not marriage; it's just enslavement.
Sexual enslavement, probably.
Well, yeah, and he makes it kind of clear, I think, that he wants her in a very much a certain.
Yeah, but they definitely Americanize it, make it more kid friendly. The way they go about saying it.
He definitely is smitten with her in his own way, and he feels like he wants to wed her, but yeah,
he doesn't want her as an equal. He wants her as more of a to serve him.
Yeah,
and to be his trophy forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we talked about Peter Cullen, but we also have Tress MacNeille in this. And Tress MacNeille, if you've watched anything from any of the Simpsons or any of the other series that Matt Groening has put together, Tress MacNeille is part of it.
Yeah.
She's also the voice of Dot from Animaniacs. So I mean,
that show.
Huge acting talent coming from this. But then we get the dub of this, and I mean, like I said, they didn't have a translator, but that's still not an excuse.
I mean, they was talking about their voice acting. They got like the best voice actors for this, and I'm like, not all of them.
Yeah, I think that was
looking at you.
Why I couldn't pay attention to it, because the voices seemed like they were somewhat off.
I think, like I said, I liked all the voice except for Pidge. Pidge was just aggravating.
I can assure you, the production probably was really either cheap or two paying by the word for the actors, and so they limited the actor talent. And yeah, I kind of guessed it in our conversation. I was like, 6 actors.
Yeah, I was all of them doing a ton of roles each. It was just
which even that is not always a bad thing. You mentioned the Simpsons and the Matt Groening productions, the Simpsons and Futurama. You've got a few actors who are leads who have 1 or 2 roles in those shows, but you also have people that have multiple roles.
30 to 40 roles, yeah.
Yes. Between them, Harry Shearer and Hank Azaria did probably 2/3 of the Simpsons characters.
Pretty much.
And then, and Tress MacNeille herself, if I'm not mistaken, did multiple roles on both shows.
Well, I mean, she still does multiple roles for, I mean, all of the Groening stuff. I mean, she was in Futurama. She was in, she's in Disenchantment, which is the newer series.
Right.
So, yeah,
I still want to see that.
And if you've got people who have, and that's why I said I wasn't saying it was so much a problem with the voice talent, is I have a feeling that this series, that they either didn't have vocal direction or they didn't really give a shit about it.
They probably didn't give a shit. They probably didn't. They were like, well, let's put together something that we can sell and make money off of.
They just didn't care.
Which worked.
One thing to note about
for
this is that it's the first show to be in stereo, which was one they marketed big, that they decided to go stereo on it, and everything all the shows have been in mono, so this is the first one in stereo, which added to the show. But they originally just gone into animation as an afterthought. They were doing regular TV shows. They were just a small little company, and just kind of hit it huge with Voltron. It was like they went from being an afterthought to being, number one company with Voltron. It was, number one cartoon in its heyday. So,
I was locked in on it as a kid.
I was
I
too.
mean,
I was hooked. Yeah, they were
but
saying the writer was saying the moment he knew that they had a hit, they had kids testing it out, and the kids immediately started role playing. And he said, as soon as kids start role playing, they're hooked.
yeah.
They've invited that show into their universe, into their fantasy world, and
So
they're hooked now. So
so continuing some of the voice acting. So we're gonna get into this part here. We have our favorite bad to hate character, Sven. I think that's kind of agreeable. So bad it's good. Character.
It's entirely out of the blue. Like what in the story, what in his appearance, what anything indicated that he would have a heavily and stereotypically Swedish accent. It's
The most Asian looking character, they made him Swedish.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, but I loved his voice. I mean, it was like looking at the character and his voice. It was laughable because it didn't sound like the voice that he should have. But I loved the voice. It was so unique. I mean, it was a shame that they got rid of the character because he was great. I loved his voice acting.
Before we get too deep into the acting, let me go ahead and read the comment here from Doomsday's Crest. Like, the Go line in Japan was way more brutal before they dubbed in English and heavily edited, like Sven being killed, which you could tell pretty much anytime they were like, this person is recovering, and then never shows up again. What happened.
He actually does show back up in the show, I guess. And his brother shows up as well.
His brother shows up in the Go Lion. It's his twin brother in Go Lion.
Right.
He comes back in Voltron.
Yeah, because they explain that he ends up going back to his home planet, but then he comes to help them out once. We never got to that episode. It was past where we were, so we didn't see him again. So they didn't kill him off. Like they couldn't kill off characters in American cartoons then. So he was never killed off.
I will also say a note of Go Lion. They were far more vulgar. The princess had a mouth on her. And Go Lion.
I gotta watch the Go Lions. I mean,
she's swearing right and left.
Nice. I love that. I love that and the more gorier. I just gotta check out Go Lions. Definitely. Even then, as a kid, I would have watched. I mean, I used to watch horror movies, like straight up R-rated horror movies when I was a little kid. I mean, like from in diapers watching that stuff. So a little bit of violence on the cartoon would have been nothing for me.
Any case, but without the Colin intro and music, just not the same vibe. Love to see a fan edit blend. I agree. There.
I absolutely am all for a fan dub of this series, of the original Go Lion. It'd be amusing, but the licensing would be a nightmare because you have Universal having the rights to it now, and they'd probably fight you even if you're doing the original on that.
Yeah, kind of like I mean, there's still tons of fan stuff for Disney for Star Wars, but if it's actually really good, Disney will shut it down.
Yeah.
Like that movie I really wanted to watch. It got shut down like immediately because I guess it was fucking awesome. It probably did way better than Disney did with stuff. And they were pissed off.
Okay, so we talked about Sven. He's the so good we love him, and then we already started kind of touching it. Pidge is just a nightmare voice.
Yeah,
horrible.
Pidge is just odd generally. I mean, we should probably mention that I don't know if Go Lion explains more thoroughly, but here he's basically a kid on this elite space force, and it's like, what's that?
On Go Lion, they explained him less.
An
Believe it or
orphan.
not.
He's an orphan kid that was had foster parents, and
Right.
Well,
that somehow
that's in Voltron.
joined the
That's in
state of,
Voltron. And Go Lion, you don't even get that. Go Lion, their names are they go by their nicknames, and that's why Keith was actually called Chief. In Go Lion, Pidge was Shorty. Lance was Moody.
What's that better?
Sven was Quiet, and Hunk was Hothead.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
It was definitely annoying.
I could see that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Pidge, like I said, I love the show. I loved rewatching it, but listening to Pidge, I'm just like, oh God, shoot me.
It's like and I know it's a dangerous thing to try to apply logic to this series, but
Well,
like if you're looking at this as again elite Space Force, I can definitely buy Keith and Sven. I can definitely buy them.
And Lance.
Maybe.
and here's where I want to give sort of a quick lesson on dubbing. When you dub, or it doesn't even matter dubbing, it could be any voice acting. Because I have two notations that use Pidge's voice later in better options, better uses. The way they did Pidge's voice is when you do a child's voice, you kind of bring your tongue in and you talk with smaller words. But with Pidge, you swallow your tongue. That's how you get that voice, and that voice was done by Andy Serkis as Golem in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it was great there.
Great there, and it was done. I forget who was the actor, but for Stitch and Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah,
it's the same concept.
Of the film. What was his name? We just did that, but it was the director.
It's hard to believe when I was looking at the other parts that voice actor played that Pidge was also Shipwreck in G.I. Joe.
Yeah, of all things, he was Shipwreck in G.I. Joe, and then the guy who played Lance was Duke in G.I. Joe.
Really?
B.J. Ward was Scarlet in G.I. Joe.
I didn't know that, and knowing's half the battle.
Yeah,
indeed.
So I mean, yeah, Pidge's voice is weird in Alien because that's what you don't do that voice unless it's weird in Alien of a character. But they did it for Pidge, and then they did it later for a background character. The voice that Michael Bell does the voice of the girl in one episode.
Oh, was that girl that exchanged Pidge's uniform?
Yes,
it was the only time I think I heard one word.
She was originally called Katie in the original, and she was played by a girl. But Michael Bell plays her and does a Pidge voice, but a softer Pidge voice, and it's downright hilariously bad.
Right.
Unlike the Pidge we know and hate, his was just unhilariously bad.
Yes, his was just bad.
Right.
Well, you almost expect him to be the smart one, because usually you got the whiz kid, but he's really not. I mean, he's more the acrobat than anything else. And actually, come to think of it, there is no resident smart one in the group. Now that I think
he kind of is, but no one's smart in the series, honestly.
No. And that's one of the things that frustrated me is how freaking stupid they seem most of the time.
But, I mean, you have other people like Alora's done by B.J. Ward, who,
right.
like I said, she did Scarlet, but she's also more infamously a Playboy bunny.
Now, that would have been a Voltron episode I'd like to see.
Right?
Well, they did. And Go Lion, she does lose her top swimming.
Well, she loses it in the other one, but I'm sure
she did here. Yeah.
I'm sure they show it. Well, I'm sure that they show probably more in Go Lion than they did in.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't show the nudity. I will say there was no nudity to my vision of the series.
Well,
Can't
this
we
matter,
hentai
we
version?
haven't you watched Doomsday Preppers?
At least for the princess.
And of course, I see also that Ward also did Hagar, which I'll have to admit, the three main villains. Well, maybe I'm skipping it. I'm just going to say the three villains: Hagar, Zarkon, and Lotor. I actually did enjoy their voice acting. I thought they were well done.
Oh.
They,
Absolutely. I mean, as much problem as we have with Pidge, I don't think there maybe have been one or two villains that kind of had a bad voice, but not horrible.
But yeah, and particularly the way that Hagar would emphasize the word evil every time she said it. It just kind of amused me.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it goes right down to Barbara Goodson with Rita Repulsa on Power Rangers doing evil.
Right.
Actually, you know what's funny is that as much as they talk about evil, and they do a lot of evil things, I do notice that whenever they try to make a deal, they're the ones that are always good on their deals, and it's always the Voltron force.
Right. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, they always like stick to the deal, and Voltron's always the one backing out. Always sneaking away around the deals. Supposedly for the good guys, they were always the underhanded ones.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else they want to talk about with voice acting before we sort of break down some of the more important episodes?
Well, I guess continue on a little bit with basic characterization. Like probably worth looking at the who we're dealing with. We mentioned Pidge as kind of the annoying brat, really, and Keith's like the team leader. I guess Sven was supposed to be, and then he disappeared.
Well, no, he was never supposed to be the leader in this version. In Netflix, they made him the leader, which made more sense because he was in black. Right. Now, mind you, they kept his name, which was Shiro.
Right. Which is kind of weird. Which actually is kind of amusing that Shiro is the black one. But
because Shiro is white in Japanese language.
I find that kind of amusing. And then we kind of touched on this before. Like Pidge has got the green outfit and he's in the green line, and Hunk has got the orange outfit and he's in the orange line. But Sven has the black outfit and he's in the blue line, and then you got Lance is blue and he's in the red line, and
then the princess is pink, but that's because she's a girl.
And hers is pink, and then she gets the blue line after.
She's still the blue line, but
it's like Zen disappears.
It really makes me wonder why they did that. Like they weren't. It's weird.
I think what it came down to was the concept that red is always the leader in a Sentai.
Okay.
Whenever you do a Sentai, with the exception of Sailor Moon, I do have to state that. With the exception of Sailor Moon, red is always the leader.
I don't know. Mars thinks she's the leader.
Right.
So, going into the episodes, the starting episodes that basically bring us into this concept is a four-parter. But it's Space Explorers Captured is the first episode, where we're kind of introduced to the concept. And one of the key difference between Voltron and Go Lion is they've edited the beginning of the show so much. A good example is they're off exploring to go to Eris to find the lions, and in Go Lion they didn't even know about Voltron. They were out off of Earth, and Earth decided to have nuclear war. But it was the reverse. They decided to have Eros have nuclear war, which seemed to have no nuclear winner whatsoever.
Right.
And they're being run by Galaxy Garrison, which is part of the vehicle Voltron that they brought into the Lion Voltron series. So that was a nice edited part that did not exist initially.
One thing that's interesting is that the Galaxy Garrison in this version, it is established every beginning of every episode, is on Earth. And most shows tend to portray Earth as sort of the redheaded stepchild of the universe, some sort of a backwater or a forgotten planet or something. But here it's like, the Galaxy Garrison is set on Earth. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's a little different. But
very, very egotistical, but I mean, they had what they had to work with,
Right.
Well, it's about time, Earth should be at the forefront.
Anything you guys want to talk about? And I'm kind of covering like the first 4 on this. So it includes Space Explorers Captured, Escape to Another Planet, Ghosts and 4 Keys, and The Missing Key.
I think those are the most important episodes in this section.
Yeah, definitely. It's the formation. I mean, they knew about Voltron, but they actually just escaped on that planet because they had no place else to go. They kind of crash landed there and just kind of looked upon Voltron and the Alliance.
And it gives an origin story to the Voltron mythos, that it was originally the protector of the planet, but the witch basically tricked Voltron, and they explain it like Voltron is like a person essentially, but that Voltron was tricked and then basically split up.
Yeah. I'd like to know how the hell she turned him into 5 lions. I would think killing Voltron would have been easier than that. I've always wondered that, even though the lions are awesome. Like, how did she do that? Like, supposedly she's the one that did it.
It was evil.
I got a scheme. Get an evil scheme.
But it does introduce the most important characters in the Voltron series, the space mice.
Who's
Cheeser in the gang. Cheeser.
They're heroes. They found the missing key because they stole it.
Yeah, they stole it.
They stole it. You guys
they were not praising them in Go Lion. They were stern with them. They're like, no, you stole that key.
Right? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
realize that Disney princess shtick with the princess talking mice.
If they hadn't stole the key, they found the key where it was supposed to be in the first place, and you never had to look for it.
As Brandon said, it is quite probably the most amusing use of the Disney princess speaking with animals, where she can actually communicate with the mice.
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, I love it. They make a great use of the mice and everything. Boy, it was just I just had issue with that beginning where them saying they're heroes because they found the key. It's like they took the key, So they weren't heroes.
I just like the convenience of escaping. That was my favorite part of this for 4 episodes. The convenience of getting on vultures that conveniently drop you safely to the ground, away from the plane, and conveniently being able to get to a ship and steer the ship.
Yep.
With
and
5
conveniently
pilots.
crash like not too far from the castle that happens to have the lions.
Right.
Like, they didn't have to work for anything really. It was just like everything just kind of fell on their lap.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Maybe they had that. Maybe they had that. What was it? That luck thing that was going on in Escatona.
The Lux magic or whatever.
Right.
Possibly. I mean, it just conveniently keeps doing things for them.
Indeed.
All right. Anybody else want to say anything about these 4 episodes that start us up?
No.
I actually love when they finally get all the lions and form Voltron. Form the feet and legs, form the arms and torso,
I
and
mean,
I'll form the head.
you think about it, but I mean, at that point, we got start and beginning, heroes that their story would be told in that first episode. I can say like He-Man, he found the sword and he
Yep.
transformed into He-Man that first episode.
Yep.
They don't become Voltron until episode 4.
Yeah, it's really weird. Definitely weird the way they did that. I mean, even after they found the lions, they were still out one lion because the other key was missing. So yes, they still couldn't even form Voltron. Took a while.
Right.
And then of course, they lost a member right away, and the princess took over. And of course, the whole plan of one of the evil schemes was always to get them alone and try to kidnap, capture, or kill one of them so they can't form Voltron. Which, never
And
ended up working out
therein
for the
lies
bad guys. But it was a good plan. Just never
There
well,
is a-
therein
there's a
lies one of the
thing.
biggest issues with the show. Is that yes, the villains do have decent and sometimes really good plans on a regular basis, and they really should have succeeded several times over.
Somehow they get foiled.
And one of the reasons why is because even though they know that they are trying to create problems that can only be thwarted by Voltron, and even though the Voltron Force knows that they will probably need to whip out the Blazing Sword as Voltron in order to vanquish the foes, they never seem to be in any sort of friggin' hurry to do it.
I know. They always go, like I said, every episode they go out with the lions. They get their asses kicked with the lions, even though the lions are awesome. They get their
They're
asses
always
kicked with the
splitting
lions.
up.
Then they
They're
say, okay,
always
we'll form the Voltron, we'll form the sword, and they kick its ass.
Well, the episode we lose Sven is episode 6, the right arm of Voltron. He, as we've stated, Shiro, the character Shiro in Go Lion, dies. He takes that blunt hit to the head, and they bury him. And they have this little moment in graveside. And Voltron, I was laughing because they're laughing. They're having a good time at the end. And they're like, oh, he's recovering. And it's like, no, he's dead. He's dead. The dude's dead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought that was pretty obvious the way that they did it. Even though, recovery, and they pulled that trick a couple of times, where it's obvious that a person died, and they're like, yes, they're going to make a full recovery off screen. Someone.
It got better.
Like, I'm sure quite a few people probably died with those flowers, when they were trying to get that, remedy. I'm sure everybody got that remedy.
A whole bunch of people probably died during that one.
Yeah, probably.
One other episode I want to bring up is Surrender. That's the one with the really bad voice actor girl. It has probably my favorite line out of Go Lion. Not done properly here because the princess is just upset that it's raining, but she's got a smile on her face. My preferred in Go Lion, she's happy. It's strawberry juice falling from the sky, not at all blood. A couple other ones. You had Witch Gets a Facelift. That's where her Alora's aunt comes into play briefly, and that's a Tresh McNeil episode where she comes through. And let's see, I'm trying to think of a couple other ones here.
There's the episode where the space mice are in charge, and they have to fight the evil space mice.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Yep. Raid of the alien space mice. Yep.
those evil space mice was something else. They got blamed for eating all the cheese too. It was the evil space mice.
The one that absolutely makes me laugh the most, Pidge's home planet. That originally in Go Lion was the final moments of Earth, not Pidge's planet. They go to their former location, training grounds of Mount Fuji, but instead they go in the Voltron. They go to Pidge's planet, making Pidge seem alien, not Earth, which is appropriate for his voice, I guess. Trying to see if any other ones of note. I mean, anybody else have any episodes you really remember?
I liked the origin of how they found, or how they found Voltron, or the story of the Voltron robots being destroyed and being sent to different parts of the planet that the people had been like scared off to, and the whole inside of that castle that was left there. They were saying, "Hey, all this new technology. If Zarkon knew about this shit, he would, So
Yeah, I think it was pretty awesome when like the castle's being destroyed, and then all of a sudden they come up with a bigger, better castle that's all like technology and shit.
They get the
I thought that was
Robo
really
Castle.
I thought it was really cool. Like this other castle just popped out of nowhere. We destroyed.
I mean, I do remember the castle one pretty well because it was one of the few times I was like amazed the princess did something before she's in a Blue Lion, because this would have been
turret and started gunning.
Yeah, she started using the hell out of a turret and being badass, and then she gets in the Blue Lion and is a complete total idiot.
I love the one where she takes the Black Lion out and she's like, "I'm gonna lead us," and
Actually,
totally almost gets them all killed, and they're all like pissed off at her.
Here's one. Okay, so the Pidge's Planet episode, actually, this is one I'm curious about with Go Lion. So they leave, and I actually thought that this was a pretty interesting thing, because they're like, Voltron is our technology, it's going to stay here, and of course when they're leaving, they're shooting at them, and they're like, "Yes, we're giving them a full gun salute." And I'm thinking to myself, no, in the real translation, they're literally trying to shoot them down.
Well, all right, they're trying. I have to use air quotes on this because they're actually saying they're not going to try and shoot them down because they're the heroes of Earth. They're their last hope. So they're like, if we destroy the Lions, we're screwed. So we're going to force them to try and land, but they don't and fly off. That's what happens in Go Lions.
I actually like the plot in that one overall, just because I thought that it was a pretty cool way of looking at it. The debate that even the princess had to make, because she had to make some choices, and the princess actually took an active role in understanding where she was part of the team. And
she was a princess up there, but she was also part of Voltron. So without her, they couldn't form Voltron, and without her, they probably would have gotten their asses kicked. So she's like, I have to go help them, or they're going to be lost.
I will say something that's missing from Voltron that was in Go Lion that I wish was still in Go Lion, or in Voltron, was Lion songs, and we'll go into those a bit during the music part. But there were a lot of princess, or the Blue Lion and the princess songs. throughout what we watched. I think they were focused, and Go Lion, they were like 5 or 6 times by that point. Had played that song, and each song would be an episode focus Lion, basically off of what characters focused that episode. So yeah, it shows that they really were trying to push the princess being one of the guys in a sense early on in the series, which is unique. I mean, you don't get that in the 80s, especially from Japan.
And you definitely
it was pretty good.
here.
Cool
I'm gonna go ahead and throw out. This was another thing that I felt from this watch. And again, I don't know. It sounds like it'd be cool if it is different in Go Lion, but I really felt like this show, it really leaned hard into very old-fashioned concepts about females generally, but also princess-type characters, and not really in a good way. I would almost call the show almost misogynistic.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Hey. Well, I mean, it's even before that. It's even before the Zelda princess moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, it very much is. It's a time of the 80s. It's even the Japanese version. I jokingly kept seeing in my head a remake. If you've seen the meme of the white girl with several black guys behind her, being like a very porn-driven meme, and I saw that with the princess and all the members of Voltron behind her, being all the guys, doing that sort of in reverse. I just saw that and I was like, yeah, I agree. Misogyny all the way through in this series.
Yeah.
No doubt in the mind. I mean, it's Japan, 1980s. You're not gonna not get misogyny.
Right. It almost feels like, and again,
we lost him.
Oh, he muted himself.
Oops, sorry. I said, like, I wonder how many of these shows from the time, if I went back and watched them now, if I kind of get the same vibe. I do know that I've seen definitely the show. Yeah. I do know that I got not exactly the same thing, but like another show that I went back and watched that I watched during this time of my life. And I went back and rewatched it a few years back, was Inspector Gadget. And in that one, I remember I had not remembered that Gadget is actually a friggin' asshole.
He's an asshole and a moron.
Penny's the one that does all the work, and
Penny and Brain do all the work in Inspector Gadget. They literally do.
Actually, the best Inspector Gadget show is Get Smart.
That was
yes. Yes.
No, I will say the theme from Inspector Gadget is iconic, but and the theme from this show is relatively iconic too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're gonna remember that, like that.
When we get to musics, we'll discuss a little bit more with the theme and whatnot.
I had planned to. I wish I had gone and listened to a couple of the Go Lion themes. I just didn't.
You can't find them. That's the problem. I searched. I meant to put them in the chat for you guys. You cannot find them. You have to watch Go Lion to find them.
And even Go Lion, as far as like the physicals of Go Lion, are really badly out of print, and Die Rugger as well. I mean, I really wanted to get both series. I am lucky enough to own Go Lion on physical.
You can watch Go Lion on Crunchyroll. It is available on Crunchyroll. That's how I ended up watching it. It's still on my Crunchyroll list to keep watching. And honestly, I intend to keep watching Go Lion. Go Lion actually is relatively good. I do suggest people, if you liked Voltron and you want that nostalgia trip, watch Go Lion. And it's actually really well done. for its time. I mean, it's still going to be, like we said, misogynist as hell, but it's campy and enjoyable in the right ways. So, I mean, definitely check out Go Lion. Let's talk about monsters, because we talked about the villains, but they're row beasts, as they're called in Voltron.
Yeah.
Are there any beasts that stick out in your head?
I like the well, they did a couple gladiators. I like the one where you had sort of the militaristic planet where the guy volunteers to become a row beast. And I like that concept of the dude doing that and then, coming out and fighting them with skill for skill, which I always thought that was a cool concept with a couple of those.
Anybody else?
I think the one that I liked the most was the one that they pitted against like 3 other characters. He's because dude's like, pit the winner against 3 other characters, and he literally just like tears them apart in seconds.
I like the one with the girl, like she's just a lonely girl knows, and she turns into the big monster, and then she like refuses to hurt, like she kidnaps Fidge, but then she refuses to hurt him, and just kind of switches sides, Like I like that one. Like she never wanted to be a row beast in the first place, and she just kind of refused to help them.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I did kind of like that too.
They just automatically like, oh, look, these things are sleeping. We'll just wake them up and they'll just be our servants.
As an artist, I love the nipple cannons. If you want to see some amusing, hilarious creatures, look up the row beasts in Voltron. Oh my god, especially the early ones where they seem to. First one has nipple spikes or drills, and then the next one has nipple cannons. It's just absurdity that is just pure enjoyable.
There is some visual fun to be had there, honestly, except for the one that turned rogue and kind of helped them. There's not much memorability to them, though. It really is more the actual the main villains that are somewhat developed. And you remember, but most of the row beasts, I was like, it's the monster of the week. Yeah,
There's the coffin. All right.
Exactly.
That's the reason why I looked at that one Gladiator Planet guy, because you got to see a little bit of background of the character before they used him as a row beast, which was kind of cool.
They also did have that one guy, I can't remember his name, but he was like a commander of their forces until he just screwed up one time too many.
Yeah, and then they turned him into
that was Uric. It was Uric in the dub.
Right.
I mean, in the original, and also in the remake, it's Sendak. So they call him Uric for some unknown. Well, I mean, we know the reason. They didn't have a translator.
Was this the first instance of having a bunch of like vehicles form a giant robot?
No, not in Japanese sense. In America, yes.
Because it was like there were tons of series that did. I mean, I remember there was one with puppets I used to watch. Then, of course, you've got Power Rangers. You've got like a ton of them where they just all come together to form a.
All right. Technically, okay, then no, Voltron wouldn't be, because it would be Thunderbirds. Argo. Probably. Yeah. I don't remember them as a giant robot. I just remember them.
No, there was another one that was the puppets, but I cannot remember what it was called. The
puppets were Thunderbirds, but I don't remember them becoming a giant robot. I just remember them being vehicles. They had 5 different vehicles.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not the first, but it is one of the more unique. The series has become very iconic throughout the ages. I know in our conversations, I dropped the clip from Team Vulture, or from Venture Brothers, where they had a Venture version of Voltron. They had another one in Dexter's Laboratory. Robot Chicken's done a couple episodes with Voltron for the new Netflix series. So I mean, it's been something that's been ingrained in childhood and into the popular culture for years since it's coming. Speaking of which, let's talk about the robot itself and the 5 parts. Favorite lions. Let's go with that. What is your favorite lion?
I guess Black Lion because of the because that's the leader.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say. Like, my favorite color is red, so I tend to like the red and just ease fire, which I love fire too. But yeah, the black is pretty cool because he's like alpha on the head. He's the leader. He's the brains and the head of it. The no pun intended, head of it. And and of course I like the princess and the blue lion too. You don't get too much story behind the other lions as much. You get a little bit, but it's more centered around like the black and the blue.
You do get more in the remake. I will say that much. I personally always liked the Blue Lion. The princess was one of the first girl characters I liked and sort of looked at my own self in a bit as I was a child. But the one that always gets me weirded is the Green Lion's design, because the jaw doesn't really open or close, despite the fact the picture we're seeing has it open more. It doesn't really move. And I remember in the toy, it didn't move.
Well, from the look of it, it looks like the red and the green, which are the arms, have that sort of rounded
I think
shape.
that's to hold stuff with.
That's to hold stuff, exactly.
Yeah. You got to hold the sword. And that little chakram thing that they threw.
Well, they had new weapons every freaking episode. And we talked about the toys. You absolutely could see. The ideal amazing concept of this was it not only you watched in the show how to put together your toy.
Every episode.
Yeah, you learn how to form it. And
feet, legs, arms, torso. No, form the head.
Which was weird because he keeps saying torso, and it's really just arms and shoulder because the torso is the Black Lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And feet form the head.
But yeah, that was an interesting thing. Dave, did you have a favorite lion or?
I would have to say the Black Lion. He was pretty. I guess he was the one that to me stood out amongst the 5, even though they kind of all did some stupid antics.
I think the princess had a thing for him too. You remember that episode where she gets to kiss one of them, and they're all gonna wanting to kiss her, and she goes, what, Keith? What about you? And they go, I'll just pass. I'll stay here. And she looked like disappointed. You
definitely get that Lance has a thing for the princess.
Oh, totally, totally.
But, and in the remake, Lance and the princess have the closest relationship.
Yeah.
Keith is always sort of that Keith, asexual.
Though, and Keith didn't have a thing for her, though.
Yeah.
Well, technically, I think want to go with the way they all had a thing for her, technically.
Not in the remake. But yeah.
In the original.
Yeah.
Pidge did get his kiss on the cheek from her later, but
yeah.
That was so hilarious. That was so hilariously mean when they just kept having the mice kiss him, and he thinks it's the princess, and they're all just laughing at him.
He got
So
4
mean.
kisses, just not from the princess. Although you would freaking think you could feel the hair.
You know,
I know you
You would think.
exactly. I mean, you really can't tell the difference between Mike's kissing you and the princess.
come to think of it,
You
I
know,
just realized
princess, you
this.
better shave those whiskers.
With the voice, if you look at Pidge as the mascot character, it works. He is their Snarf, or
No, the Snarf is awesome.
Hey, don't besmirch Snarf. And I hate to say that, don't besmirch Snarf.
Snarf,
Because
Snarf.
Snarf is one of my least favorite mascot characters. But don't besmirch Snarf.
but he's the weird mascot character. Except instead of an animal mascot, he's a kid.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't think he was supposed to be even a kid in Japanese with Go Lion. I think he was just short.
I
And
think
they
that
made that point by calling him Shorty.
I think they should have just made him a dog with glasses, and he would just be like a really smart dog, and he could make silly noises and continue to be the comic relief.
Hey, the dude can jump. I mean, white boy can jump.
And then,
first episode, he's jumping like 40 feet in the air.
and then you could give them all instruments, and then they could play music in between the segments. And then it would be a true 70s cartoon from the golden age.
Exactly. All right. Well, let's get into music because honestly, we've covered most of the other subjects. So I'm going to try and pull up the name of the person who did this music appropriately because it's pretty much his main call to affair, but he did do one other infamous song title or TV show. But what do you guys think of the music while I'm looking this up?
I mean, music, like I say, I only really remember the one track. I'm not going to lie. It's an iconic track, but it's the only one I remember.
A lot of electronic synth.
It reminds me of something that, like, in between, like, Last of the Starfighter and Flight of the Navigator type music.
Ron or Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I really do. The main theme, I feel like it's a really solid theme. The series music overall, is good, but definitely the theme is quite memorable.
Anything you want to add, Ron, there on the music?
Yeah, I agree with everybody that the theme is very memorable and great, and after that it just kind of just blends in, which
All right.
that's what music's supposed to do at most times.
The creator of the music is John Peterson. He is only done a few other shows, but he brings a nice connection here to another bad dub company. He was part of 4Kids. And he was the composer also for the Yu-Gi-Oh theme. So those that remember in the 1990s, the Yu-Gi-Oh song, which was just sort of a weird horn and just the repeat of Yu-Gi-Oh in the voice and the background. That was his next big theme that he created. But Voltron is called basically the theme to Voltron is his mainstay. I mean, Go Lion, wonderful theme, but it's catchy. I will definitely keep that running in my head since I've heard it. And like I said, there are Lion songs, but you cannot, for some reason, find them. You can find the words for them, but you cannot find the actual productions. And I'd say that is a sad, sad issue because they are badass themes. it's coming right out of the disco era, so you've got a nice disco beat going for it. And I wish it was in Voltron because they were badass, just da 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 type songs.
Nope, I'll be hearing that Voltron theme in my head for probably the next couple of months.
Oh, I mean, I absolutely there. I remember that theme song from my '80s. I mean, it's just like I remember the Transformers theme song, and GI Joe theme song. Both of those. I mean, it's an iconic theme song.
And the He-Man and
I don't
She-Ra.
remember He-Man as much. I remember, of course, Ninja Turtles because it's Ninja Turtles.
Oh, who the hell doesn't remember
Right.
that?
Of course, and we when we ever get to our anime lists, I of course I've noted Pokemon on my list because it is one of the most iconic themes of all time. But yeah, Voltron is definitely an iconic theme. And the first time I think I remember hearing that robotic voice that they do with synthesizing of the and Defenders of the Universe at the end. But yeah, the music otherwise is like synth. Like I said, it's the guy got a lot of the senses out of Running Man, stuff like that. Same kind of concept, the synth culture. So there wasn't really anything big to note other than that in the series. Anything else anybody wants to talk about the series?
I mean, I guess the animation we should talk a little bit about. I mean, of course, it's old school, definitely, and you can tell that they cut corners where they could. And then you had on top of that any American edits. So it cannot have benefited from that. But very stiff for the most part.
I still liked it.
Definitely continuity errors.
So good.
Oh, there's huge continuity errors in the English one.
Oh yeah.
Like I pointed out, there's points where they will go into a cut row beast at night. It'll switch to day, and switch back to night in the same, 3 frames, and it's just like, what the hell? And it's because they don't want to show a scene of a row beast getting his head lopped off.
So did the animation look any better or smoother in the original cut?
Much smoother in Go Lion. Much smoother. Because they're not editing right and left to try and get around some of the more violent elements of the show. Although I will note, there are a lot of times I was sitting there and watching a laser blast move slowly, and it's just like, really, you shot a gun or a laser that moves slower than running up and stabbing someone.
Yeah, that kind of goes beyond the extendable idea of belief, to be sure.
But all in all, I feel the animation for its time was pretty good. And the robot design is, top of the line. This is, like I said, it's right before they did Transformers. And the same people that did Voltron would go on to do Transformers designs. So we would see the people go forth with the next series. And it's Toei Studio. They've made a name for them over the years. And they're still making a name for them, good and bad, these days.
So I'd like to think that probably clinches it as far as Voltron is concerned.
Pretty much. I mean, unless anybody else has anything else they want to say, we can sort of wind down and go into the what's going on next, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess why don't we do favorite episode or episode block? I think that should probably be a good.
I think we kind of did that. But
favorite line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can try that. I don't have one other than space mice.
oh, that was a line. Oh, hi, space mice.
That's a line. Yeah, it's absolutely not.
Oh.
But
and my first
Brandon was secretly
Space
hoping
mice.
they would give Pidge space rabies.
also, just to make it a little bit tougher as far as favorite episode, we cannot don't use don't use the first couple episodes because I think those probably are the best episodes in the series as far as writing and stuff is concerned. So it would be a cheat. So after the opening story, once Voltron.
Well, that ain't cool. Take away the best episodes.
All right. Well, I will come back to SeptumSin last. I'm going to go the reverse order this time. So, Ron, give us your favorite line without giving the first 4 episodes, and where can people find you?
Well, I actually just love I love the line of them creating Voltron every time. Form the feet and legs and arms and torso, even though it shouldn't be torso, and I'll form the head. I just love it every episode. Sings that along with it. Just brought me back to my childhood and loving it. So I just I definitely love that. And I get it every episode, so even better. As far as favorite episode goes, actually quite a few good ones. I think maybe the birthday, the king's son's birthday. They blow up the cake and stuff. It's ruined, and they're like we ended up. Sorry, we're late for your party. We were tied up and shit. It was just, it's kind of a good episode. It kind of ruined his birthday. So I have to go with that one. There's a few other ones I like. Like I said, with the girl monster that refused to fight them anymore and switch sides and stuff. But yeah. How about Dave next?
I would have to go with the narration intro, because I when it comes to like shows like this, I do like the narration part because they give them quite an intro. For the days of long ago, from uncharted regions of the universe comes a legend, the legend of Voltron, defender of the universe, a mighty robot.
It is pretty badass. Definitely, I agree.
I mean, it is badass when you hear it like for the first time, since like forever ago. But then it becomes kind of redundant. But I still like the intro for it. Like, I feel like it should be said like every 2 episodes. You know what I'm saying? Not every single episode. Like, you get the point. Like,
well, that's just the way they did it in this case. Could be someone tuning in for the first time.
All in a row. But I suppose I could understand like seeing it weekly for the first time. Like, if you're a kid, you're like looking forward to that intro, every week or whatnot.
The intro always reminded me of Sailor Moon because of the way you had the different color, and of course you had the different color crystals in the opening to Sailor Moon. So it was that kind of cool thing.
All right, Jacob.
As far I'm sorry. I think I'm going to agree that in terms of like memorability and sort of the iconic nature, I mean that opening is kind of iconic. I feel like it was in my brain from years ago, and it just took a few episodes to bring it back to the forefront. And some of the things that they say while they're doing the transformation sequences and all that stuff, that stuff gets pretty lodged in your brain, definitely. So they're memorable quotes. But as far as favorite lines, I cannot specifically say any because I didn't write anything down. But again, a lot of the stuff, particularly Hagar, but also with Lothar and Zarkon, a lot of their discussions about evil, like it's such an evil plan and all this stuff, and Hagar, you're so evil and all that stuff. It's just the way that they kept talking about that is like as if it was the greatest thing ever, and the way that they emphasize the I don't know why it amused me so much, but it did. And yes, pretty much most of what Sven said was amusing just because of the bad accent. But as far as episodes, I couldn't think of an episode that jumps out. There's a couple that were better than others, but nothing I would really write home about. As far as like this episode was great, you know.
All right. I mean, let's. We kind of skipped a little bit here of things. But Jacob, you want to say where you're? Anything about yourself there?
Oh, we're doing outros too. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
I
missed
guess
that.
do outros as well.
Okay. Well, I'm Jake. I'm the co-host of this channel, SeptumSin versus World, and so anyone's tuning in has probably heard me every now and then. Although usually I don't sound quite this bad. So, and of course, I normally am work hard, but I'm in quarantine this week, and but it's given me a chance to get caught up on some viewing and reading, so that's something. And yeah, just join these fine folks for these discussions, and I look forward to leading next month's discussion on Kane. It's going to be a fun one.
All right. Ron, did you want to do your outro, and then we'll get to Dave again?
Alrighty. Well, I'm Kroll, aka Ron. I'm disabled, so I don't work, but I watch TV, watch movies, I play video games, play games on my phone, read, and I come on these podcasts, talk about the movies we watch and animes, and I enjoy it. I don't have a YouTube myself, but I'm on other people's channels a lot, so look around, you'll see me. Yeah. So I'll also be doing my first acting gig sometime when Dave tasked me in to do some scenes for his upcoming anthology he's doing. So that'll be exciting. First time for that. So yeah. Who's
Dave?
Who's next?
Oh, Dave, finish up your outro there.
Okay. My name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. Joining the anime discussion that Brandon hosts from time to time, and it's been a pleasure. We podcast movies every week, and I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where we podcast under the same name. But I also do some video pickups and some video reviews on the channel as well. So definitely, if you haven't gotten a chance, check out the channels, and we'll fully be on next month for some cool stuff. And as Kroll here said, I'm putting out my first anthology eventually. It's just been slow, but I hope to get the rest of the horror hosts that I've been working with segments down so that I can start like getting some of the other short films filmed and get those ready and all the editing that goes in with the credits and stuff like that. So that'll be cool and exciting. It's just been a slow process, but it is called Tales of the Forgotten, and Kroll's definitely going to be in it. So yeah, and hopefully some of y'all.
All right, and I'm Brittany Dotson, aka Anhedenia Arts. My choices here, my favorite line, honestly, actually, still has got to be through the Go line. The princess saying, "Oh, it's strawberry juice when it's raining with blood." It's probably gonna be one of my favorite lines for a long time in anime. My favorite episode though was "It'll Be a Cold Day" in the in Voltron release. I don't remember what the episode was called in Go Lion, but it's one where they end up on a frozen planet for the switch for the brother, the sister that had the brother that became the Roe Beast, and they had a moment where Keith turns off his heater and switches with the princess and walking through the snow, and Lotor doesn't realize it at all. And hey, I mean, I love it. It's a stupid concept, but it worked. But yeah, that's my favorite. You can catch me while I've been down and quiet for a lot. We are back up and running for commissions right now with art. I usually go by the handle of Embrya Arts. Also go as the VTuber. I don't know. And we are going to be back, hopefully streaming next month. We definitely have a laundry list of new streams coming out, new content. I'm working on a lot of things, including new backgrounds, new setups, and whatnot. So I hope for you all to join in. Just go to youtube.com/EmbryaArts or twitch.com/EmbryaArts because we do it on both. Let me give it over to Brandon.
Well, I guess anything with space mice is my favorite quote. I guess favorite episode would be Pidge's home planet. I kind of like that they discuss various stuff. They kind of bring the team together. They look at what they kind of re-examine what they're about, other than just protecting the planet. Even though they had gone to other planets to protect them in the past, and this was just for some reason this was the one that they had the issue with. But as far as this channel, well, if you're on this channel, you got an idea as to what it is. Check it out and subscribe if you're just coming to us for the anime discussions. And as Jake said, next month is his birthday. So we're going to be covering a series that's relatively hard to find, Karin, which is going to be an interesting thing for us to all watch in the future. But we'll discuss more about that as we go, and it'll be good to bring this series back up to light again. All right. Well, with that being said, hope you've enjoyed this. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everyone.